I'm happy to be back home since March. I mean, now it's more than 1 year. Sorry. Okay, so I can continue, yes? So,
but my dad even wanted me to come back to Nigeria because he wanted me to be a doctor so bad. So he was willing to forfeit that scholarship so I could just study pharmacy. So I had to block his number because he was distracting me. So I applied. I didn't even have money. So I borrowed money from my friends just to have fun before I drop out and come back home. So the most beautiful lesson for me in Cairo was that you attract the things that you think. My name is Jeremiah Mosadoluwa Alabi. I'm from Ogbomoso. I spent most of my life here in Ogbomoso, and I'm the last child of a family of 3. My parents, all of us are from Ogbomoso here. I had my secondary education in Federal and Ogbomoso here, and luckily I had my university education in Cairo University. I had BSc in biotechnology. I graduated in January of 2020. When I was growing up, I mostly spent my time outdoors, playing with tire. And when I'm not playing outside, when I'm not playing football, I am always reading. My mom is a teacher, so as the last child, she always made me read. I always read dictionaries and the Longman dictionary to be specific. Then when I was in junior secondary school, my mom hated that I'm always going out. She'd be like, are the other people, can they come to our house? So I stopped going out as I used to when I was in primary school. Then I was reading more. I was reading textbooks of my elder brother, especially biology, because I wanted to be a doctor or something like that. So, and when I think about it, my mom forcing me to read when I was younger. It helped when I was in secondary school. Because by the time I got to secondary school, especially biology, I had read almost everything. So by the time I graduated from school, actually what happened was at the end of SS3, one of my friends, actually my best friend now, Akiyemi, told me, okay, when our WAEC result comes out, we should let him know that there is something he wants to share with us, which we didn't know what it was. So when the WAEC result came, I just sent him my result. And then in January of 2014, he sent me a link to register for a scholarship. And I just applied. We went to write the exam in Osun State. And then all of a sudden in December, they told us we were traveling to Egypt. So December 2, I got to Cairo. It was at night at around 8 in Cairo time. So the next morning, when we were going to the passport office, so I saw like guys were hugging and like peck, like is it peck? Yeah, pecking each other, and it was weird for me. I'm like, this is supposed to be a Muslim country, an Islamic country, and these guys are openly gay. This is weird. So that was my first impression of Egypt. I thought it was an openly gay country. So that was my first impression of Egypt. My time in Cairo, it was like mostly nice, great actually, except the first year. When I got there, the scholarship had been, I had applied for pharmacy. So then by the time I got there, the Egyptian Ministry of Higher Education would normally convert our WAEC result to the local equivalent. So by the time they did that, mine was 87 point something percent. And to study pharmacy, you need to have, I think, 95%. So like the best student that went so far to Cairo from Nigeria had a parallel. So, and even at that, she was 90%. So she was able to study pharmacy, but it was general pharmacy. So you couldn't do anything serious. So I had the dilemma of maybe coming back. My dad even wanted me to come back to Nigeria because he wanted me to be a doctor so bad. So he was willing to forfeit that scholarship so I could just study pharmacy. So I had to block his number because he was distracting me. So, Buhari was going to be president and I never had a good feeling about it. So I didn't want to come back. So I blocked my dad's number for like 3 months, trying to figure out what next to do. So luckily I found out about biotechnology. I didn't know about it until then. And I changed my faculty to Faculty of Agri. That was a very tough few months for me. And then after I decided I was going to study biotechnology, I had to stay 1 year at home because to process the change of faculty, it was stressful. So I just stayed in the hostel for 1 year, going to Arabic school. Yeah, those early months were tough. And that was where I learned that if you want to do something, you just have to focus. So that was why I blocked my dad's number, because it was convincing me to come back home. Then after then, there's something they say that you can't connect the dots looking forward. When I look back now, I think it was a good thing that happened because I was able to work in Cairo with my school because I changed my faculty. If I had studied pharmacy or if I had remained in Faculty of Science as opposed to Faculty of Agriculture, I wouldn't have been able to work with school because Faculty of Agriculture offered a credit hour system. So I was able to, which allowed us to choose which courses we want to study. So that way I was able to arrange my academic plan courses like, okay, in the morning I will go to work, in the afternoon some days I will go, some days I will not go to school at all, just go to work. So second year, in 2017, I was going to drop out because what I realized later on was because of the system in Cairo where only the best students could study pharmacy, only the best students could study engineering. So what happened was, because the acceptance in my faculty was low, so the poor students ended up there, and most of them didn't want to study what they ended up studying. So they were unhappy, not motivated. So I ended up being around unmotivated people, which was depressing. So I think I was facing some depression at that time. I wanted to drop out of school, come back to Lagos, because when I got admission to Unilag, I was thinking of opening a restaurant. So my plan was, let me just drop out and come back to Lagos so I will not tell my family. Then I just saw an ad on Facebook for one entrepreneurship boot camp in the Red Sea Governorate. So I applied. I didn't even have money. So I borrowed money from my friends just to have fun before I drop out and come back home. So then there I met my friend Omar, who I ended up working with. He just came back from the US as well. And then, we met and it was like, I should come and work for him after the event. I was broke, so Buhari didn't pay our money. So yeah, I called him. We started working together. We started Odigo. So in summary, my time in Cairo, it was at the beginning, there was a roller coaster that would almost let you okay, even my dad wanted me to come home. But if I had, the experience I have now, I'm not sure I would have it. So it was a good thing that I made that decision to shut down my dad for a while. Then, when I met Omar and I had the opportunity to work with him, I worked with him for 2 years before I left in March of 2020 when I wanted to come back home. And the most beautiful lesson for me in Cairo was that, you attract the things that you think. Because when I first got to Cairo, Nigerians in Cairo were telling me that, man, you cannot trust these guys, you cannot work with them, you can't trust Egyptians. So, and I'm coming from Ogbomoso where, as a Yoruba person, you always you don't act based on what people say. You try and experience things in your man lawyer. So, how was that in English? I'm not sure. So, So as they were telling me those things, that man, you can't trust these people, I was just like telling myself, I mean, let me experience it firsthand. And thank God that that mentality was already there for me, because it allowed me to go out there to really mix up with Egyptians. And it's evident because many people I met there could not even, people that were there for before me 5 years, they couldn't even speak Arabic. And the little time I spent there, I started speaking Arabic, started picking up, because I was spending a lot of time with them. I had a good experience because of that. So, many people, they think negatively and they attract that. But when you go out there and you're like, I mean, this is what I believe is going to happen to me, I can assure you, you're probably going to attract that. So yeah, that was the good lesson for me there. Well, coming back to Nigeria in 2020 wasn't really preconceived. It wasn't planned. I've always known I would come back home, but the agreement I had with Omar was I would stay till 2023, 2024, max 2025, and then I would come back to Nigeria, probably to head Odigo operations if there was anything like that. But I still had a contract till like 2023, 2025 with him. But I mean, before then, you need to understand that I've never really been fascinated about traveling abroad or anything. I mean, the opportunity to travel even to Cairo came because a friend told me about it. I never actively, it was right from a young age. I always, loved the country, the books I read, Dr. Miles, Bishop Oyedepo, people I listened to always talk about that if God put you somewhere, it's because He wants you to do something in that place. So I never really has been fascinated about traveling abroad. The only thing I knew that, okay, going abroad exposes you, gives you ideas of what's possible. That's not there where you are. So I always knew I was going to come back even after I graduated at some point. But in March 2020, on the 1st actually, I was preparing for work around 6:30. And that thing just told me like, it's time to go home. I mean, I have a contract that says if I stayed, I would make some really good money. So that thing just told me that it was time to go home. March 1st, I can never forget. So I just right there, I just sent an email to Omar, to the board, because I was on the board of the company. And yeah, so I resigned that same morning and I started my process of coming home. Then, so like, it was crazy. I had just blew through my savings to settle down. So no, it wasn't preconceived, it wasn't planned. It was something that was, I think, I will use the word purposeful. And another thing that is not spiritual or led about coming back home is anybody who has spent quality time abroad will tell you that there's really nothing there. If you have big plans, you better come back home. See, I spend a lot of time, I study the wealthiest people. I read Forbes a lot. I read their Wikipedia. If I can get books on their biography or autobiography, I get it whenever I can. So, and one thing I found by myself was that, you see, all these wealthy people and change makers are just working locally. They're just trying to solve local problems. You look at all these American companies, they never really wanted to do anything for the rest of the world. They were just trying to build solutions for their own people. And in that process, because these problems are global, that's why they say think global, act local. They're trying to solve problems for their people, and then look at where they are today. And another thing that struck me was all of these people were at home. The richest man in Asia is an Indian, and he's in India. Mukesh Ambani. I mean, you look at all these wealthy people, they are in their home country. They are building their country. So, because one thing you need to realize is, in Nigeria, as I am in Nigeria now, nobody can question me. If I go anywhere, I can do whatever I want. Any opportunity, I can apply for it. There is really no limitation or filter for things I can do at home. I can contest to be president. But abroad, there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of ceilings that you have to break. and for what? So, to put it in perspective, the richest black person is a Nigerian. And I mean, if you think about it, it doesn't make sense, because America is the largest economy in the world. So you would expect that the richest black person should come from America. And he's a tech person as well, Robert. So, but he's not the richest person. Dangote, if you recall, before Buhari, Dangote was the 16th richest person in the world, and he's the richest black man right here in Nigeria. And what that tells you is, I like money. You understand? I want to be successful. I like success. I like solving problems. But one thing you find is, it's better you go home and build something at home. Nigeria is a big market on its own. So, like, in terms of logic and money and all that stuff, it just made sense to come home, because Egypt had all these regulations that as a foreigner, you need to have an Egyptian partner to start a company. And this is there almost a lot of countries around the world. Yeah, just a lot of limitations when you're abroad. But in Nigeria now, I can do whatever I want, and nobody's going to question me. I can build, I can stretch as far as I want, and nobody's going to question that. So apart from the spiritual leading, it makes sense to come home. And I don't think anybody who really wants to create any real solution, I mean, as a Nigerian, would do it from abroad. If you want to solve our problems, you need to be here. You need to be here in the country. You know, get your hands dirty. You can't change something that you're not a part of. So that's one of why I came home when everybody's trying to run. And I learned not to have expectations, because I mean, I have dreams, I have ambition, I have goals. I expect the best. But when you have expectations, like maybe this will happen this way, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And one thing that I appreciate was when I resigned, my friend Omar, who was my CEO, didn't accept my resignation. First, he called me into the office with his dad. His dad was our CFO, and they were questioning me like, "Do you know what you want to do? Are you sure about going home?" Even his dad was like, "If I go home and things didn't work out, I can always come back." I'm like, "No, man, I'm not coming back." So yeah, Omar's session, you know, questioning, it asked me a lot of hard questions so that I can be sure if that was what I wanted to do, if I wanted to really come home. And one thing they found was I wasn't really just dreaming about how it would go coming back. I mean, I didn't have money, so there was no way I could expect things to be rosy, because I just used all my savings to rent an apartment, furnish. So no, I didn't have any expectations coming home. I just knew, I mean, I went to Cairo, I didn't know anybody, but I was doing fine. So I just knew if I worked hard the way one thing I was telling myself was, if I could make it in a foreign land, there is no way in my own place I would not make it. So yeah, that one thing was sure. And yeah, that was that about coming home. Nigeria and Cairo are very, very similar. Nigerians catch cruise a lot. Egyptians too. They like to party. We like to party. Egyptians are always eating out. Like, I was always out with my friends. If we are not eating out, we are, having fun, clubbing. So we both like fun. We both value family. Maybe a little bit they value family more than we do. But Nigerian culture and Egyptian culture very, very similar. Very open people. A lot of my friends usually say that Egypt is my friends that have traveled to other Arab countries say that Egypt is the most open Arab country, and that's true, because even when you're going in the street, people are very nice to you. I didn't really experience. The only experience I had was one day when I was going, and the agbero in the bus, let me say it that way, wanted to cheat me. That was my last £50, and I was going to Arabic school. I had paid this guy, so he's supposed to take £3.50, and he told me I never gave him money. I started crying, man. And it was a man in the street. a naval officer actually. He could speak English, who saw what was happening, and he came to my rescue. And it's the same thing that I would have experienced maybe on the streets of Lagos or here in Ogbomoso. If I was having a problem, people would come around and try to help you. And yeah, our cultures are very similar. And when you really look at it, there is not much that Nigeria can learn from Cairo, other than the fact that Egypt does a lot with little. If you look at the entire Egypt, it's desert, and with that, they still export a lot of food. Meanwhile, Nigeria, 90-something% of our country is cultivable, compared to 5% or less than 5%. Like, to put it in perspective, Egypt is larger than Nigeria, and 5% of that is where most of the population is, and most of the farming is along the Nile. Yet they export. Egypt is the largest exporter of orange. They export banana. Banana needs a lot of water. They export rice. So, and when you look at us in Nigeria, we have everything. We have more natural gas than Egypt, and yet we don't export natural gas like that. Egypt exports natural gas. There is one particular story that struck me in 2016. So in 2016, there was this story. Egypt did this deal with cement, the electric company, to help them generate gas-powered electricity. It was budgeted to cost $8.3 billion, something like that. And it was going to generate, I think, 16 gigawatts of electricity. And at the same time, Nigeria was going to spend $24 billion to generate 4. So we were spending times 3 to generate 1/4 of the same power they were generating. So, I mean, those, among other stories, are some of the things I saw in Cairo. I mean, corruption is there in Egypt. Corruption is everywhere. But one thing you see is when you're faced with scarcity, like, it puts you in a spot where you have to do the most with the little you have. But Nigeria, we're like, our blessings also are cursed. We have a lot, so we just squander. So I think that's a lesson we can learn from Egypt.